Hey, Brent.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody who's joining us for the ACT training webinar series on Outlook integration. We will begin in about 5 minutes, so just sit tight and we will start shortly. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the ACT subscriber training webinar series. We're going to begin this topic on Outlook integration in just a couple minutes. So just sit tight and we will start in just a few minutes. Thanks. Okay, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you might be. We're at the top of the hour, so we're going to begin this session right now. Welcome, everyone, to the ACT subscriber training webinar series. Today's topic is going to be Outlook integration, and let's start now. This is going to be something new that we're doing here. It's a training session for subscribers. We'd like to give you guys more information about ACT, help you feel a little bit more confident of the features and the things that ACT can do for you in a realistic setting, so that you're getting more success from it. This is going to be an ongoing series, and we'll have more information for you in the coming days and weeks about how this will go. Today, we're going to have a live demonstration of Outlook integration. I'm going to show you how to install Outlook integration. We'll go through some of the preferences inside the Outlook integration piece. And then I'm going to show you some of the features that are available and how those can make your life easier, how you can expedite some of the things that you might already be doing inside of ACT and Outlook. At the end, we'll have a short Q&A session. We've got some experts online. Mark and Chris are going to help answer some of those questions for you at the end. So please use the Q&A panel when asking a question. If you use the chat panel, we'll probably just ignore it. So use the Q&A panel and we'll do our best to answer any of your pertinent questions. And then also there's going to be a survey that comes out after this is all over, just so you can tell us what you think about this. If you have any requests on future topics, you could probably put those in the survey as well, so that we're giving you the information that you want. A little bit about myself. I'm from Arizona. My name is Brent Milner. I've been with this company with ACT for over 16 years. And if you've ever watched a training video, that's probably my voice that you hear. But I also help to train our employees internally, our partners, and customers worldwide. I live in North Arizona, out in the woods. So if you think Arizona is all desert, you're wrong. We have a wooded area up in the mountains, and that's where I live. So let's begin by talking about Outlook integration. Now I'm going to cover how to integrate, how to install this integration piece, whether you are using the desktop version of ACT or the cloud version of ACT Premium. It's a one-time installation on your computer. After that, it's good to go and you don't have to do anything else moving forward. If you're installing it on for ACT Premium Cloud through a browser, then there's one quick browser setup that you have to do. You have to enable pop-ups for our specific URL, and I'll show you how to do that too. Also, I'll show you that you can use multiple ACT databases as separate address books inside the Outlook integration. So let me jump into my first window here. I've got a couple of virtual machines that I'm going to use to demonstrate the pieces in the training session today. That's why you see two Windows bars down at the bottom. One of them is my virtual machine. So what we're looking at right now is the installed version of ACT on my desktop. It's ACT version 24. If you are using that, it might be a good idea for you to install the update, which was just released within the last 24 hours, update 6, I believe, and that'll help everything run a little bit more smoothly. So go there and do that. You can always get your updates on the desktop version by going to the help menu and then choosing ACT notifications. And that'll prompt you to install the latest and greatest. But one of the things I want to mention here is when you install ACT on your desktop, this automatically installs Outlook integration. So you really don't have to do anything else. However, there's one preference that I want to show you. If you're on the desktop version of ACT, you go to your tools menu and you choose preferences. On the admin tab, there's a little box down at the bottom, a little checkbox here on the admin tab, and it says use shared database networking for API access. Now you want to check this if you have multiple users at your company who are sharing ACT on a server. This is going to power all of the API features that are available, such as the welcome screen or ACT Insight, some parts of ACT marketing automation and Outlook integration. This will power all those features by the API service on the server if you check this box. So I recommend doing that if you have multiple people at your company using ACT. And that's really all I want to show you on the desktop version, because all the features that we're going to see in Outlook integration are shared between, or they're the same features whether you're on desktop or whether you're on the cloud version. So I'm going to jump over into my cloud virtual machine here, and let's install the Outlook integration. So I'm going to launch a browser, and I'm using a brand new virtual machine here that's never installed anything except for Office and Chrome. And so what I'm going to do is go to my browser settings first, because I need to enable pop-ups to allow this download to happen. So from Chrome, for example, the little options button on the top right gets you into your settings area. Click settings. And the easiest way for me to find this is I just type pop in the search screen, search field at the top. And then I look down here where it says site settings. It includes pop-ups. So I click that and scroll down, and then I'll see where it says pop-ups and redirects. So I'm going to go to the pop-ups and redirects area, This again is in Chrome. And here's, and I could enable all pop-ups if I want to, but I don't really recommend that depending on how much you browse the internet. What you can do is go to this bottom section where it says allowed to send pop-ups and use redirects, and you can add one specific web page. And so the web page that we're going to use for this is https:// it's appus.act.com. And when I click add, it'll add that URL to my allowed pop-ups area of my browser. And that's all I need to do. Now this is set. So what I can do is log into my ACT database. Then I go to my.act.com. And I've already saved my login information. So I'm just going to log in straight away to my ACT Premium Cloud database. Now, once this loads, I'm going to show you how to install the Outlook integration piece. When your database loads, go to the Tools menu. And in here, you need to scroll down and find Preferences. Now, once you open your Preferences window, we're going to go to the email area. And then we're looking for this center area called Email Integration. Again, this is going to be a one-time download and install. So I'm going to click this download link. And what will happen is it's going to say, hey, before this integration can work, you need to install a piece of software. And that's what we're doing. So I'll click OK. It opens up this window. And now I have to give my password once again for my database. Once I type in the password and click OK, this is where the pop-up is enabled. If you don't have your pop-ups enabled, this little download window won't show up. And so what this is doing is it's searching for this Outlook integration file that we'll be able to download. Now this takes, a few seconds, so be patient with it. The little circle is spinning, but it's actually doing something. It's finding it for us, and it just takes a minute or two to locate that. Now, the file that we're going to download is an executable file. And when we do that, we'll see that Windows is really protective, and it might tell you that it's afraid of this file, but that's okay. It is totally safe to run, and I'll show you how to sort of bypass the Windows fear screens. Just give it a few more seconds here, and it will show up. There we go. Now it's starting to download this ACT integration setup executable. It is, you can see, 230 megs, so it may take a minute or two depending on the speed of your internet connection. And that's my connection is not too bad, so it'll be finished in about 30 seconds here. One of the other things that we'll run into during this installation is there will be a user account control screen that we'll need to just click yes on. And if you're like me and you're using a brand new computer or a brand new virtual machine, you will need to install Microsoft Visual C++. If your machine doesn't have that yet, you'll be prompted to do that too. So we're going to go through all those steps. The reason I chose to use a fresh virtual machine is just in case any of you are also coming from sort of a pristine setup like this. I wanted to make sure I showed you every screen that you're going to be able to see here. All right, so this piece looks like it's finished. Let's click that to open it. And here's our first screen that I mentioned about Windows protecting us. So Windows doesn't really recognize this file straight away, and because of that, it's going to prevent that executable from running. But we know it's safe, so all you have to do is click More Info, and then it tells you who provided it. It's from ACT Integration Service. And so now we have a button at the bottom that says Run Anyway. Now it's a little bit scary, but don't worry. Click Run Anyway, and it'll start this installation. Now, the next thing that we're going to probably see here is a user account control window. As it's running this executable, we'll have to give permission for one. There it is. We need to give permission for the ACT integration setup to actually run. So I'm going to click yes here also. And now it's going to go into the installation. And in just a moment or two, we will see a window that prompts us to install Microsoft's Visual C++. You can see there's a lot of kind of pauses in between. I don't know if it's because I'm on a virtual machine and it's just not the fastest. You might have different results in your installation. So here we go, Microsoft Visual C++. I'm going to click install for that. And now it's going to start with that installation. And then we'll jump into the wizard to install the integration between ACT and Outlook. I'll click next. I always recommend just using the default destination folder. It's usually the quickest way to do it, simplest way to do it. So I click next on that. And it begins this setup. That's really all there is to it. The next screen we'll see is just going to be a confirmation that the install is complete. And there should be a button to click finish. Almost there. I also recommend not opening Outlook while you're doing this installation. I usually leave Outlook just closed and then open Outlook after this installation is complete. There we go. The installation is complete, so I'll click finish. And now I can close this browser download window, and I can also click OK and close my preferences window in ACT. Okay, now let's open Microsoft Outlook and let's see the installation. You can see on our preview screen here, we're loading the ACT add-ins. It happened really quickly. That's how you know that the installation is there. I'm going to maximize this window. So now the installation is there. We have a new ACT tab at the top, at the ribbon at the top, and it gives us all these features that I will get into here shortly. Let me jump back into my PowerPoint slide here and go to the next screen. Let's talk about preferences. So when you're configuring preferences, there's a little screen we're going to look at in just a second. There's a couple of preferences I want to talk about. Now, on that preferences screen, there's an auto attach and a quick attach. This is the two different ways that ACT can record history as you're sending and receiving emails with your contacts, with your ACT contacts. You can either have it work automatically using auto attach, or you can change that and decide how you want to record history when you use the quick attach button. And I'm going to be doing both of those so that you can see how that looks here. So let's jump back in here to my virtual machine, and I'll look at the change preferences button at the top. Before I do that though, what I do want to show you is over on the left side, you may have noticed, if you've ever been using this Outlook integration piece, this is kind of a newer thing. Now you can use multiple databases to interact with Outlook, and each of those databases will appear as an address book inside the Outlook integration. I only have one database. That's why there's nothing else in my drop-down box there. But it's set up so that if you have multiple databases, now they'll all be available here inside Outlook integration. But as I click the change preferences button, I have my two buttons here, one for auto attach and one for quick attach. Now, auto attach is just going to look at every email that you send and every email that you receive in Outlook. And it's going to determine, first of all, is this email either being sent from or sent to one of your contacts in ACT? And it usually uses the email address to figure that out. If you already have this person as a contact in ACT, then this auto attach will kick in basically. And you can decide what kind of history to record when you either send emails or receive emails to your ACT contacts. I usually choose email as an attachment. It's a little bit cleaner looking. When we get into the history screen, we'll see how that looks. But you can choose to just show either the date, time, and subject, or the date, time, subject, and the entire message. And that will all show up on the history tab for your contacts. If you don't want to auto attach your emails into ACT, then you'd click none here. And then that's when you need to use quick attach or the attach button if you want to manually attach any emails to history records in ACT. So let me go through these settings. I'm going to say I want my auto attach to work. I want it to attach emails that I send as an attachment in ACT. And when I receive emails, I also want it to automatically attach those emails I receive to the ACT contact as a file attachment. Now in the quick attach area, this is just going to tell me what happens when I click the quick attach button on the ACTs tab in Outlook. This is when I'm manually attaching emails to ACT contacts. Again, I can choose to save it as date, time, subject, and message, or as an attachment. And I really like the attachment. It just looks nicer when I'm on that screen, so I'm going to use that. Down below, we can decide which contacts are going to be used for the history. You can use the sender, all contacts, or anybody in the CC. I usually think that sender is the best because I'm receiving this email, and I want it to match up with the person who sent it to me. There's another option here. You can create contacts in ACT if they're not found. Again, that is if you're going to attach an email message to one of these emails that you received or sent, and if that person's not yet in ACT, it'll prompt you to create them. I'm not going to do that right now, though. Instead, I'm going to leave my settings like this and click Save. And now I should be ready to go whenever I send or receive an email from or to an ACT contact. Those will be attached automatically, and we'll look at this in just a little bit. One other thing I want to show you is this address book button. So now while I'm on my ACT tab in Outlook, I can click address book, and this will show me my ACT database basically as an address book inside Outlook. So that's really convenient. You don't have to toggle back and forth between ACT and Outlook to see the people in your ACT address book in your ACT database. That address button is there for you to just see those people at a glance. Okay, let's look at some features now inside the Outlook integration. There's 6 of them that I'm going to cover today. We're going to talk about attaching manually with extra options. And then we're going to look at the quick attach button, which just does it with one button click without adding any options to it. Also from Outlook, we're going to see how you can create a contact or an activity based on an email that you've received. And then I'm going to show you how to synchronize your Outlook contacts and appointments with your ACT contacts and activities. And then at the end, I'll show you how the auto attach feature works once you enable it. So let's go back to our virtual machine here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach one of these emails to a contact that I have in ACT. Let's use this third one for Garth. And what I'm going to do is just manually attach it. So the first one I'm going to click is attach to contacts. If I click this button, it's going to say, okay, I'm going to create this as a history record, this email as a history record for Garth, for his contact record. But I have some other options here. What if I want to attach this email as a history record for somebody other than Garth? Maybe one of my other contacts. Let's choose Evelyn here. And I'm going to click Add Selected. So now what it's saying here is I'm going to have 2 contacts that receive this email as a history record in ACT on their history tab. So let me click OK. When I do that, I get a little confirmation message at the bottom of the screen that says the history record has been created. But let's go to ACT and see how this worked. I'm going to look up contact, and I'll just look up Garth. Oops. First of all, this will take me to the detail view. Since I only have one Garth in my database, it takes me straight into their detail record, detail view. And if I click the history tab, now we'll be able to see that this email has been attached. Now, the date field on the left shows me the date that the email was received, but the edit date on the right tells me when I performed this function of attaching it. So we can see that today's date is there. It's the request for catalog information email that I received. And I'm also going to click this little paperclip button to open that file. Now, ACT will give me a little warning, or Windows will give me a warning that says, hey, this is MSG file. These types of files can harm your computer. But I'm going to click keep because I trust this file. It's from my email after all. And it's going to open that as a message MSG file, which has been attached to my ACT database. So anytime I want, I can come back and view the histories that I've attached to contact records. Now, this is one that I attached to Garth's contact record as history, but I also attached it to Evelyn. So let's look up contact named Evelyn Evers. And again, on Evelyn's history tab, we can see that this email was attached to her as well. So that's a really quick way to do it manually from Outlook. If I wanted to attach a received email to one or more contacts in my ACT database, you can use the attach to contacts button. Now, the difference between that and the quick attach button next to it is that the quick attach button doesn't give me any options to add additional contacts. It's just going to attach it to that specific contact itself and nobody else. So if I click, if I highlight this email and I click quick attach, it's not giving me the option to add Evelyn or anybody. It's just going to create it for Garth alone. So if I go back to ACT, I should see on Garth's record now multiple emails that were attached on today's date. And there they are. One was the quick attach and one was the regular attach, but they both showed up here on Garth's record. The next thing I want to show you is how to create a contact from inside Outlook to ACT. And this is going to be something that's really common if you're using Outlook integration. So let's say I received an email from this person, Tennessee Ford, and he was referred to me by one of my colleagues. He wants to explore the idea of using me as a vendor, providing some services and goods and things. Okay, but he wants to talk this week about it. Well, I don't know who this is. I've never heard of him. I've never talked to him before, so I know he's not a contact in my ACT database. Now, in the old days, what I would have to do is sort of go into ACT, copy some information, create a contact, come back here, copy the address, go into ACT, paste it, come back here, flip back and forth and back and forth. But now with the Outlook integration, all I have to do is click this email to highlight it. And then at the top, click the Create Contact button. This opens up a really quick contact creation screen, and it pre-populates a couple of these fields, the contact's name and their email address. Now, there's currently no way for ACT to sort of scan the content of the email and find other additional information, such as the name of the company or the email address or anything like that. So what I usually do is, with the email open, I create this contact and just type in the information from the signature of the sender. So I'll do that right now. He's the owner, his phone number. And you don't have to do all this right here. You can always come back to it later and add this stuff. But I like to do it right now because it's right here in front of my face. And in case I forget, I'll know it's there. So I don't like to leave any threads untied. I think DE is Delaware. And then the zip code is 19711. So that easily, we put all the information in. And now when I click create contact, I get a little confirmation down at the bottom. It says contact was created and their name. Okay, so if I go back to ACT, one thing I can do is just go to my lookup menu and choose all contacts. It's kind of a way in the cloud version of ACT to refresh all your data. That's one way to do it. Or you can always use the search feature at the bottom left, or you can use the lookup feature to find a specific contact. There's lots of different ways to do it. I'm just going to type in 10, TENN, because that was his first name. And there it is. Here's the contact that I created from Outlook. Now it's in ACT, which means that going forward, any emails that I send and receive with this contact will now create history records as well, which we'll do in a little bit. One of the other things that we can look at inside Outlook is creating an activity. So as we look at this email, this contact asked me if I was free to talk this week. Now, maybe he would have given more details or something. Can you call me on Tuesday or whatever it might be? But this prompts me to create an activity in my from Outlook into my ACT database. And with this email highlighted, if I just click create activity, now I get a create activity window and it pre-populates it with a lot of stuff. First of all, it defaults to meeting. So I'm going to change this to call because I'm going to call Tennessee. And I'll call him, let's say Thursday afternoon, maybe at about, let's say 3:30. The end time, I'm going to make this maybe a half-hour conversation. I don't think we need to talk much more than that for our first phone call. So I'll set apart a half an hour of time to talk with him. I can set up an alarm here if I want to, but I'm not going to do that right now. Now, the regarding field, what this does is it takes the subject from the email that was sent and it just copies that in here. So maybe that's what I want to keep it at. Maybe not. Maybe I want to include something else, like maybe his company name, just so that when it shows up on my calendar, I can quickly figure out what this is for. If there was a location, I could put that there, but this is a phone call, so it doesn't need it. And then down at the bottom in details, it just copied the body of the email and put it in the details area. So you can clean this up a bit if you want to. If you just want to maybe use the subject line, or I'm sorry, the body and not all the signature stuff at the bottom, you can just delete some of that out, however you want to do it. I like to keep as much information as I can just in case I need it later. If I need to add additional attendees to this phone call, I can do that by clicking the attendees tab and then adding additional people to it. Otherwise, when I click create activity, it's going to create this activity. I'll get a confirmation in the lower right corner that said it was created. And now if I go back into ACT and I click the activities tab for this contact, we can see that this activity has been created. It's on the activities tab for Tennessee Ford. But that's not all. If I go to my calendar inside ACT, we'll see that it shows up. I have a pretty busy calendar, don't I? It shows up on Thursday towards the end of the day. There it is. Scroll down again. There's that Tennessee Ford one right there. I can click that and it'll take me back to the activities tab for that contact. And it'll also show up on my task list inside ACT. The date for that would be the 28th. So if I scroll down, I should see, here it is. That activity that I created in Outlook now shows up everywhere in ACT for me. So that's creating an activity. Very handy, allows you to do all that stuff from within Outlook. You don't have to bounce back and forth between Outlook and ACT anymore to keep all that current. So what about contacts that are created in ACT and contacts that are created in Outlook? Like, how do we keep those? How do we keep it current everywhere? And even our calendars, how do we make sure our Outlook calendars and our ACT calendars are always up to date with each other? Well, that's where synchronization comes into play. And the cool thing is with Outlook integration, now you can initiate a synchronization from Outlook. You don't have to go into ACT and do it from there. You can just click synchronize now. But we have to do a quick setup before synchronizations will work between ACT and Outlook. So let's make a note of some things, first of all, before we even start to synchronize. For example, how many contacts do I have in Outlook? If I click the contacts button, you can see I have 25 contacts here. When I synchronize with ACT, I should see that number increase. Same thing with my calendar. I've got 18 items on my calendar, pretty busy. And I pre-populated this with a lot of stuff so that we would see a difference once we do a synchronization. Likewise, if I go to ACT and I look up all of my contacts, it'll tell me up here at the top how many contacts I have in my database, or down at the bottom, I mean 26. And if I go to my task list, of course, it'll show me if I have all my filters set to everything, it'll show me at the bottom I have 21 activities ready to go. Okay, so everything's kind of in the low 20s. Let's do a synchronization now and see these things synchronize with each other. From ACT, if you go to your tools menu, what we want to do is look at our synchronization preferences. Now, I'm going to click this, and it's going to, in my browser window, it's going to download an AOI file. That stands for ACT Outlook Integration. When I click this file, what usually happens is a window opens up, unless I have not yet started my synchronization application on my computer. So this is just a file that we need to make sure is running. It's already been installed. We just need to make sure that the synchronization application is running. And so if it's not, ACT will give you this little window that says, hey, it's not running. Would you like to open the file to run it? And so, yeah, I'll click yes. And this is going to open a Windows Explorer with a shortcut to the ACT integration file. All I have to do is double click that, and it's going to launch synchronization. Okay, so if your synchronization application isn't running, ACT will always let you know. All you have to do is double click this file, and now it's running. You can always tell it's running if you go to your taskbar at the bottom. You'll see this ACT integration service is going. So what I'm going to do now is minimize that and now go back into ACT again and go to Tools and look up Synchronize with Outlook. And on that submenu, again, I'll choose Outlook Synchronization Preferences. Now that the synchronization service is running, when I open this AOI file, it's going to open a new window in my browser, which lets me set up the preferences that I want to use inside Outlook synchronization. So here's that window. You can see it's telling me which database I'm using. It's telling me I'm going to synchronize with my Outlook account. And then beneath that, I have two options. I can synchronize my calendar, or I can synchronize my contacts, or I can synchronize both. So by default, if you're not synchronizing, if you don't have synchronization set up, it'll be set to do not synchronize, and then there won't be any options for you. But you have several options. You can sync one way from ACT to Outlook, which means I'm going to be moving all of my calendar items from ACT to my Outlook calendar. And in that scenario, I should use my Outlook calendar as my main calendar every day. Or I can synchronize from Outlook to ACT. And that's just the reverse. Anything that's on Outlook calendars will be synchronized to ACT. And then you should use your ACT calendar as your main calendar. Or we can do two-way sync, which synchronizes ACT and Outlook with each other. So both calendars should be up to date. If I choose that, I get some options down below. Now, we have some ways to handle conflicts or collusions. What that means is if I update the same activity in ACT and then update it again in Outlook, but I haven't done a synchronization, I'll have two different versions of the same activity. And ACT wants to know, what should I do when you do that? And here you can decide either keep the ACT version or the Outlook version, or just whichever one has the newest date stamp on it. So I usually choose the newest activity there. And then when you clear an activity in ACT, should I leave that activity in the Outlook calendar, or should I delete it from Outlook as well? And I usually choose delete because I want to make sure that both of my calendars are kind of up to date with each other. So a couple of behavior things that you just need to decide how you want it to work on your system. Next, I'll click Advanced Preferences. This lets me decide what types of activities I'm going to be synchronizing. So these are all listing Act specific type of activities. I think when Outlook activities get synchronized over, they show up as appointments. But I usually just leave all of these checked. And then it will synchronize every activity over from Act to Outlook and back. And then you need to choose a date range. So it doesn't make sense for me to keep synchronizing activities that were, months or years ago. And that's why we have this little date range thing. It's really going to reduce the amount of your processing that has to take place in your computer if you make this window as narrow as possible. So anything older than 7 days ago, I'm pretty fine with not even looking at that anymore. And anything over 30 days in the future, I'm okay with not synchronizing that as well. But you can set these date ranges to however you want them to be. Just keep in mind, if this date range is really, really big, your synchronization is going to take a lot longer. And then if you have alarms, reminder alarms, you can decide where you want these alarms to ring, in Act or in Outlook or in both. So choose whatever you want there. Okay, I'll click OK. And before I click OK at the bottom, I'm going to switch over to my contacts area. So right now I've decided how I'm going to synchronize my calendars, but now how will I synchronize my contacts? And this first option is the same. You can either do not synchronize, or you can do one-way Act to Outlook, one-way Outlook to Act, or two-way syncing Act and Outlook with each other. And I'm going to choose that third option. Now we have to decide which kinds of contacts do we want to sync. We can click this select button to determine which contacts will sync back and forth between Act and Outlook. And this is done by groups. So you can either choose to synchronize all of your Act contacts, or you can choose the second radio button option to synchronize only contacts in specific groups. Now this will list all the groups that you have in your database. This is more useful if you have 10,000 contacts. You might not want to synchronize every single one every time you do a sync. So maybe you set up a couple of groups that are specifically the ones that you're going to be syncing. That's up to you. I'm going to choose to synchronize all because this database is really small and it's not going to matter to me. If you choose the second option, though, you do need to signify where your Outlook contacts should go once they're synced over to Act. So you'll have to choose one of your groups where you want those contacts to appear. But I'm going to choose all contacts and click OK. And then down at the bottom, we have a collision thing, a collision handler as well. So if the same contact has been updated in Act and Outlook, what should we do? Keep the Act one or the Outlook one or the newest one? So I always use newest one there. Down at the bottom, we can schedule automatic synchronization. This is great. If you don't remember to sync, you can set up synchronization to take place at different time intervals, like every day at a specific time, or maybe that's too often. Maybe you want it to schedule every week, or you could do it as often as every 30 minutes, however you want it to go there. Or synchronize only when you start your computer up, or synchronize in real time whenever you change records. This one might be a little intensive on your processor because every time you click Save and Act for a contact or an activity, it's going to engage a synchronization. So maybe don't use that one unless it's totally crucial. And then down at the bottom, we have a synchronize timer where you can set it to always synchronize or only synchronize during maybe business hours. And you can set up the start and end time there. So I'm going to disable this though, because I only want to synchronize manually for now. Now we're all done. I'm going to click OK. And what should happen now is Act is going to say, okay, thank you for setting these preferences. Would you like me to perform our first synchronization now? And I'm going to say, wow, thanks for asking. The answer is yes, I do want you to synchronize now. If I look at my taskbar at the bottom, we'll see there's a little blue man right there. And this represents that synchronization process. Oh, user account control, I forgot. You do need to click yes for this helper executable to run on your computer so that the sync will work. Now that blue man turns into some spinning arrows, and that's how you know the synchronization is working. It's looking at the whole database, it's looking at which things should be synced over, and it's actually working to do that. to copy things into Outlook and to copy things from Outlook back into ACT. So depending on how many records you have, this is going to be the bulk of the time where that process will run. And so I usually just kind of watch it so I know when it's over. It'll turn back into the little blue man icon, and then we'll know that it's finished. In the meantime, I can also show you Outlook and how this will look over here in Outlook. Okay, that process is finished. Spinning has stopped. If I go to Outlook and click the ACT tab at the top, now that we've set our preferences in ACT, you can also click Synchronize Now from Outlook. And so you don't have to go into ACT and figure out how to start the sync. You can just click this button in Outlook and the same thing will happen. It'll start spinning those arrows again. And we should see some updated records show up here in Outlook in just a minute. There we go. You can see things are starting to pop up on my calendar. And I suppose if I go into my contacts area, I usually don't like to do it until the sync is finished. But if I click contacts in Outlook, we'll see that now I have 31 contacts where before I think I had 25 or 26. So those contacts were copied over from ACT into Outlook. And if I go back to ACT and I do a lookup of all contacts, we'll see over here that my number is also included as 31. So they're matching up perfectly with the same number of contacts. If I look at my calendar in ACT, it should be a lot busier. I mean, it was already pretty busy, but I think if I look at my weekly view, I could see that there's a lot more things here that have been added than what I had before. Okay, I think the last thing I want to show you before we finish up this demonstration today is the auto attach. This is something I mentioned at the very beginning. And even when we looked at preferences, I said, you know, I want to auto attach emails as I send and as I receive them from my contacts in ACT. This is great. So in the case of Tennessee here, I'm setting up this auto attach to record as an attachment whenever I send an email or receive an email. So let's send an email to Tennessee and we'll see this in action. I'm going to click reply. And then I might just say, hi, Ernie. I guess his nickname is Ernie. I will call you on Thursday at, what did I say, 4 p.m.? Please let me know. That's okay. Simple message. Thanks, Brent. Okay. I'm going to send this to Ernie. And as soon as ACT sends, or as soon as Outlook sends that email, this will get recorded now as a history record in ACT. So if I go back to ACT, I'm going to look up Tennessee again. I need to change this to look up contact. And I look up his contact record. What I will do now is click the history tab for Tennessee or Ernie. And here's an email sent result. It has today's date on it. And if I click the paperclip button there and open this file, we'll see the email that I just sent to Ernie. So all of that shows up as a history record in ACT. Anyone who has access to these records can see the emails that have been sent and received. This is great if you're working in a collaborative environment and you have a team of people working with contacts. Everybody will always be up to date on all the activities and history records that are added to these contacts. Okay. And that concludes our demonstration today. So let's go into Q&A and take some questions. I think we're answering these questions in the Q&A panel. But I don't know, Mark or Chris, if you guys want to get on the microphone, and are there any questions that you think we should share with everybody and answer publicly. I don't know if you're even mic'd up. I can read some of these answered questions.
Hey, Brent, this is Mark. There was a
Hi, Mark.
question. Hey, there was a question for asking to explain the differences between attaching an email as an attachment and attaching an email as date, time, and subject.
Okay, let me do that real quick. Let's see how that looks. It's a good question. So if I go back into my preferences for Outlook integration, let's change it. Let's look at the quick attach one, and I'll just manually attach an email to a history record of somebody. So currently, I have it set as email as attachment, but let's change it to maybe email, date, time, subject, and message. This will give us the most information. I'm going to click save on that. And then let's just attach this same email that Tennessee sent me. I'll attach it back to him. I'm going to click quick attach. And that gives me my confirmation message down at the bottom. Now, if I go back to Tennessee's record, I really just need to refresh this. So I'm just going to hit F5 on my keyboard to refresh this browser screen. And now you can see, I'm going to drag this bar up a little bit so we can see more of it on the screen. Here's the difference. If I attach it as a file attachment, you click the paperclip to open it up. If I attach it as email, subject, time, and message, you get all that stuff. And it shows up here inside a column inside the history area. So you can still see all the information here, but as you can see, it's also going to copy just everything there. And if you have all of your emails, if you have it set up this preference, all of the emails that you send and receive are going to take up a lot of space here on this screen. So that's why I said the other one looks a little bit neater, but it's really up to you, whatever preference you like. It definitely saves you an extra click. You can just read it from here rather than having to open a file every time. So, however way you like it the best is the way you can use it. There's also a show preview button. If I click show preview, it's going to open up a separate tab on the right, which should put the email in this little preview box. It's a little neater that way if you want to read the details of that message.
Cool. Hey, Brent, it's also worth mentioning that if the email that you've received has an attachment, if you need to keep that attachment as part of your history, then attaching it as attachment is the right way to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. Good point. Let's see. Any other good questions out there? Nice. Like somebody asked about Calendly, and I like that idea too. So we'll take that.
We got a question there. What is the latest version? So the latest version is v24. We've actually just released an update yesterday, which can be downloaded from the download center at the moment manually. But if you do that, you'd be on Active v24. Update 6 would be the latest version.
Yeah, I don't think I'm up to date. I'm on update 5 right now on this because we just released that overnight, I believe, right, Mark?
Yeah, it went live yesterday, I think.
Okay. So I need to update this machine with update 6. So that's the latest version, version 24. And this, of course, is the desktop version of ACT we're talking about. Version 24, update 6 is the latest. Let's see, any other questions in there that we should vocalize? Yes, we are recording this session. You should receive an email with a link to the recording. I forgot to mention that at the start. So yeah, this has been recorded. All right, I think that's it. We'll stay around and answer any more questions for another 10 minutes or so. If you have additional questions, we'll just answer those in the Q&A panel. But for now, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us on this first webinar training session. We hope to do more of these in the future. Please take a moment or two and fill out the survey that you're going to receive after this. We'd love to have your feedback. We'd like to know if there are any topics that you would like to learn more about. We'd love to give those to you as well. So just let us know how this went for you. And thank you once again, and have a great day.